This video is brought to you by my patrons, my thoughts and opinions, Donald Trump, and TradCon's never-ending exaltation of Donald Trump. Hello, and welcome to, or back to, my channel. I'm Kit, and on March 6, 2025, conservative commentator and apparently now independent journalist Brett Cooper published the 5 biggest highlights of Trump 2.0 with a thumbnail reading, "We are so back." Brett is also doing the heart-shaped thing with her hands. Now, it's been said that the left has Trump derangement syndrome, but I would argue it's actually Trump sycophants that suffer from this sad ailment. No matter what Trump does, everything is overshadowed by what he says. And for some reason, everything he says is instantly believed. And if his actions prove otherwise, it's ignored or considered an attack if you point this out. Simultaneously, if what he says is actually not a net positive for the country, it's ignored or considered an attack. Basically, Trump walks on water and is given the benefit of the doubt beyond a reasonable degree. And so in this video, we're going to have a look at some of these wins Brett and fellow conservatives are so excited about. And we'll start with his executive orders.
Why don't you say what I'm signing?
Sure. The first item that President Trump is signing is the rescission of 78 Biden-era executive actions, executive orders, presidential memoranda, and others.
I just love that he did this in front of tens of thousands of fans, because to hear the crowd roaring when he started signing his signature, when they were going through every single one of those executive orders that he signed on stage, it was just such an indication of how excited people were, of how ready we were for change. Literally, people had been waiting outside the arena for 24 hours, standing in the freezing cold in Washington, D.C. to get inside, waited all day long while all the inauguration things were happening inside the Capitol, just to see this man in person and to watch these executive orders be signed. The energy was unreal. He stayed on stage for a while and did what you would normally be doing in the Oval Office, but brought his fans, brought his voters into it. It was just like an incredible way to start this second term.
Honestly, I think Misha Petrov is just shilling for the money, but Brett is a true believer. And I also think it's weird to refer to Trump voters as Trump fans, but she's not wrong. My family has Trump playing cards, a baby spoon, a Bluetooth speaker, at least one pen, an ornament. I think I'm forgetting something, but that's very much fan behavior. They definitely didn't have that when Bush was president. Of course, Bush is now persona non grata at my parents' house, so there's just something about Trump that inspires this fanatical devotion, and I don't get it. And on that note, Brett observes how Trump 2.0 is different, but better, and how much more prepared he is this time. And at that...
And not to get ahead of myself, but a great example of this preparedness is that right off the bat, people, and I mean, people being the labor unions and the labor boards, immediately started suing Trump for firing all of these federal employees. He was like, I am clearinghouse, I'm getting rid of a bunch of these lazy people that are doing nothing but spending taxpayer dollars, immediately started firing them. He got sued, literally, on day one. But just last week, a federal judge came in and said, actually, guys, this is legal. I can't stop him from doing this. You can be angry all you want. You can file lawsuits in little district courts and get angry at him and just keep suing him, but I can't stop him.
I guess Brett did get ahead of herself, because since her video was published, it's actually been ruled that Trump has to reinstate 25,000 workers. And honestly, someone who is prepared, someone who has a plan, they don't go in just firing a bunch of people all at once. That's how you end up firing people you actually need, and not only does it reveal that you don't know what you're doing, but it also makes you look foolish and incompetent. Anyway, Brett waxes poetic about how well prepared Trump is, and she's very impressed he had his own transition team.
And that is how he kept the government out of his business.
He is the government. Speaking of which,
he also brought something back from his first term, which was a favorite policy of mine. It is the 1 in, 2 out rule, which means that if you want to introduce one new regulation for government or American people or small businesses, you need to eliminate 2. So we started with that. But then, just a couple of days later, he added on that. He said, no, this is not 2016 Trump, this is 2025 Trump. He took it further with a 10-to-1 process, that if you want to introduce 1, you have to get rid of 10. That is insane. That is unprecedented. Hopefully will work out in our favor.
A review of regulations would be wiser than this. If you want a new one, you have to get rid of 10. But for some reason, all trust is put in Trump. Brett just hopes that will work out in our favor, and I wonder if she knows why we have regulations. This is also very weird, because last I knew, the MAHA movement, Make America Healthy Again, was all in for Trump and RFK Jr., and I'm pretty sure that would require more regulations. I'm also very curious about environmental regulations. On March 20th, Nature is Nonpartisan launched, and Brett Cooper is actually on the board. Coincidentally, that same day, she released a video, Can Boobs Save the Planet?, which included interviews with Benji Backer, the founder of Nature is Nonpartisan. And also a total coincidence, I'm sure, Brett didn't mention her connection. And I'm very curious about how they're going to care for the environment, as board member Brett is, well, I find this confusing.
Just yesterday, he did another executive order aimed at slashing regulations. This one was about the timber agency. And this executive order would terminate all regulations and processes that delay the production of timber, lumber, paper, bioenergy, and other wood products. He said, and I quote, "The United States has an abundance of timber resources that are more than adequate to meet our domestic timber production needs, but heavy-handed federal policies have prevented full utilization of these resources and made us reliant on foreign producers," which of course is not just in the timber industry. We're dealing with that everywhere. So this is just one example of what he's doing to hopefully, again, make things more affordable, bring things back onto American soil, which will only benefit us and our economy. These are all incredibly positive things that he's doing. Trump obviously had to have some Trump moments, and he also passed some incredibly funny executive orders. For example, my personal favorite one was the ending of the forced procurement and use of paper straws. Just watch.
Next, this is an executive order relating to the use of paper straws.
Guys, I just want you to watch the man on the right-hand side throughout this entire clip. He is just having the time of his life. Like, this is joy. They said the combo would bring joy. This is bringing joy.
We're going back to plastic straws. These things don't work. I've had them many times, and on occasion they break, they explode. If something's hot, they don't last very long, like a matter of minutes, sometimes a matter of seconds. It's a ridiculous situation. So we're going back to plastic straws. I think it's okay.
We just have to wait. It gets better at the end.
And I don't think that plastic's going to affect a shark very much as they're munching their way through the ocean. Okay.
It's so good. If nothing else, this man provides me comedy every single day.
Yes, we do have a lot of trees, but we can't just cut down trees because we actually need the trees for reasons besides timber. Deforestation disrupts biosystems, contributes to climate change, often leads to soil erosion, and more. And plastic straws do damage our environment, which, again, Brett should care about as a board member for a nature movement. Also, was Brett laughing so hard at Trump's quips that she was actually wiping away tears? Moving on, Brett begins talking about immigration, accidentally shows Trump's post about the meeting with Zelensky instead, and notes that people are talking about this more than anything else.
I mean, I don't know if you guys have been on social media in the last month, but it has been crazy. Like, people have been posting videos of their family members, like their dad who came to this country 30 years ago, and they film a video of him going through his citizen exam and his citizenship ceremony. They're like, he could be deported. Are you dumb? Like, literally, are you dumb? You just posted a video of him waving his cute little flag, passing his citizenship exam, and you're saying he could be deported. Trump doesn't care about your grandfather or your dad who came in 30 years ago and is now an American citizen. That is not who is being deported. We are deporting people who are literally currently here illegally. Like, you do not even understand the situation.
It's actually Brett who doesn't understand the situation. I'm just going to be blunt. Immigrants, undocumented and documented, are less likely to commit crimes than citizens. And this xenophobic push to deport is just that. Xenophobia. If Trump really cared about making the US safer, we would be talking about gun control and healthcare. If Trump really cared about immigration, we would be talking about a new process, not just deport first, ask questions never. And for people thinking, oh, it's just undocumented immigrants who commit crimes, or it's just undocumented immigrants, I encourage you to read the stories. American citizens and legal immigrants, even tourists if I'm not mistaken, are being detained and in some cases deported to places they've never been, Guantanamo Bay, the mega prison in El Salvador that we now pay $6 million to hold our supposed criminals. Due process? What's that? Honestly, even if someone is an undocumented immigrant, they shouldn't be sent to a mega prison. That's just inhumane. And even if you think this won't affect you, you should still be bothered by it. This whole process is meant to instill fear, so you're too afraid of even appearing to step out of line, lest you get picked up and sent somewhere the American government apparently can't get you back from, though they can send you there. Can you imagine how terrifying that would be? To be sent to a mega prison in another country with no apparent way to get home? No guarantee you'll ever see your family again? No way to know what's going on? And all because someone made a mistake? Brett is cheerleading about how different Trump is, how he's a man with a mission now, but he's still sloppy because he doesn't care. There's also something else that Brett brings up that is a sensitive subject, but I think it's important. She mentions an 11-year-old suicide due to immigration status bullying and says it was actually because she was being sexually abused. The claim of sexual abuse is coming from the school district, not the family, so I would urge caution given the district has a vested interest in not being held liable for bullying that led to a suicide. And Brett goes on to prove why this isn't unrealistic.
Again, guys, these are not legal, law-abiding citizens that are getting deported no matter what you see on TikTok. Right now, what they are dealing with, they are violent criminals.
That's just not true, and this way of thinking and speaking creates two classes of people, legal and illegal, which does lead to bullying and other threats. And let's pause here for a minute. I want to share something from Joe wrote. It can't happen here, says the country where it's happening. This is going to be very difficult for my jaw, so please bear with me. After Mahmoud Khalil was taken political prisoner by unidentified government agents, Secretary of State Marco Rubio clarified the Trump administration is not attempting to deport Mr. Khalil because of a crime, but because his speech is adversarial to the foreign policy and national security interests of the United States of America. As the First Amendment does not grant citizens protections, but instead restricts the government from censoring the inalienable right to free speech, this is a clear violation of the Constitution. And Rubio knows that. He is well aware that the Supreme Court has ruled that legal, non-citizen residents have First Amendment rights. Marco Rubio isn't confused about whether or not the arrest he ordered is a violation of the Constitution. He knows it is and did it anyway because he is trying to end constitutional protections, not respect them. It's no accident Trump's plan to offshore mass incarceration began with a non-citizen Palestinian organizer. Over the last year, campus anti-genocide protests, especially at Columbia, where Mr. Khalil was a student, have been slandered by Democratic and Republican politicians alike. Disliked by both major political parties, Mr. Khalil is persona non grata, making him the perfect person for Trump to step on first as he leads America down the authoritarian road. Unfortunately, the White House correctly assumed the move would go unchallenged. Republicans supported Mr. Khalil's imprisonment with the expected bravado, while Democrats spent 80% of their statements calling Khalil human garbage before offering hollow cliches about the rule of law. I may not be your Ivy League educated, New Yorker reading political mastermind, but I highly doubt talking shit about someone is an effective strategy to free them from illegal captivity. Just as Hitler expanded from incarcerating communists to socialists and then labor organizers, when no one stopped Trump from violating the rights of a single individual, he took the next step. Invoking the Alien Enemies Act, the administration tested whether they be permitted to disregard constitutional protections en masse. 200 alleged Venezuelan gang members were arrested and sent to El Salvador to be incarcerated in the internationally condemned terrorist confinement center. There, the innocent men, they have not been found guilty of anything, will endure 80-person cells without blankets, pillows, lawyers, books, phone calls, or visitors. Trump and company aren't concerned with whether or not the prisoners they sent to El Salvador are criminals because that wasn't the point of their stunt. When a judge ruled them to stop the flight, they ignored him. The purpose of this crime was not to remove 200 dangerous individuals from American communities, but to see whether anyone with power, Democrats, the judiciary, or the media, would accept that due process had ended for alleged enemies of the state. A few days later, Trump's personal media channel argued due process should be discarded for anyone accused of being in the country illegally. This raises the question, if there's no due process, how do you know someone is undocumented? The White House intends to answer this conundrum by laughing as they lock anyone who asks it in an unnumbered cell. This egregious speed run of the fascist agenda is only possible thanks to the lack of powerful resistance. In a recent interview with Chris Hayes, Senate Minority Leader and aspiring book tour speaker Chuck Schumer didn't just accept Trump's overreach. He helped Trump go further, stating the administration was only breaking the rule of law if Trump defied the Supreme Court. As this is not how the American judiciary works, Schumer's comment only gives Trump more permission to continue his crusade. If the Trump administration wanted to challenge the lower judge's ruling to stop the El Salvador-bound prison flight, that's fine. They can appeal it all the way up to the Supreme Court. But that's not what Trump is doing. He's ignoring the judiciary, and the opposition leader gave him permission to continue doing so until his 5 best friends on the Supreme Court explicitly tell him to stop, which they won't. With the Democrats behaving more like a junior coalition partner than the opposition, Trump has began expanding his persecution to citizen dissidents. Last week, marching orders went out to the conservative media to call anyone who damaged a Tesla vehicle a domestic terrorist, with the idea that vandalism equated to a politically motivated attack on civilians, the definition of terrorism. Trump took to Truth Social to advocate for these terrorists to receive 20-year sentences in El Salvador. I look forward to watching the sick terrorist thugs get 20-year jail sentences for what they are doing to Elon Musk and Tesla. Perhaps they could serve them in the prisons of El Salvador, which have become so recently famous for such lovely conditions. Many media figures were aghast by the statement. They have no right to be. For anyone who has soberly studied the MAGA movement, this was the expected evolution of the fascist campaign. Through a combination of cowardly idleness and despotic agreement, the American political structure has given Donald Trump implicit permission for the illegal imprisonment of Mr. Khalil and the violation of due process for the 200 prisoners sent to a Central American gulag. Now, he is expanding his scope to include American citizens through bogus charges of terrorism and undocumented residency. According to a recent statement from Marco Rubio, El Salvador is willing to incarcerate American citizens, no questions asked. And as the White House has already established, there is no due process for alleged criminals, the Department of Justice can accuse anyone, citizen, visa holder, undocumented, or any other resident status, of being an enemy of the state, burying them with thousands of other prisoners in the dark recesses of an unregulated foreign prison. I highly recommend reading the whole article. It will be linked below, and unsurprisingly, Brett thinks everything is great.
On day one, he did an executive order establishing 2 genders, which I don't even know why we had to do that, but it is hysterical and epic that he did. On day one, he said that there is man, there is woman. He even slipped in there that life begins at conception, the gender begins at conception, that you cannot distort this or change it, that there is no third gender. He kept it very, very simple.
So simple, he ignored science and other cultures. Well done. Setting aside that sex and gender are 2 different things, there are more than 2 sexes, and there are more than 2 genders, and no, it is not a 21st century Western thing to recognize that. I'm just going to be blunt again. Trans people are not preying on kids or adults. In fact, transgender and gender-expansive people face a higher risk of violence. Learning how to not treat people like shit is not indoctrination. And as we've discussed previously, less than 0.1% of American youth take gender-affirming medication, and even fewer transgender teens get any sort of gender-affirming surgery. In fact, cisgender males receive the vast majority of breast reductions. They are trying so desperately to find a way to make trans people a big bad, and I don't understand how people keep falling for it. Though on that note, the adulation people have for Trump is baffling.
I saw a tweet earlier and somebody was saying, damn it, this man is a neo-Nazi fascist, but damn it, he's so freaking funny. Yes, like you can't look away. You can't not love him slightly, even if you don't like his policies, because he's a character. That's what Bridget was saying at the top of this episode. Like, he gets the pomp and circumstance. He is an entertainer. At the end of the day, he knows how to entertain us. He knows how to keep people's attention, and by golly, he has mine.
Oh, we know, but I don't get it. Even before Trump ran for president, I never found him a compelling character, nor have ever found him especially funny. I suspect her TDS might be blinding her a little to reality. Speaking of.
Now, in addition to the paper straw executive order, another funny one that he did was restoring American names to American greatness, which was basically eliminating a lot of the wokeness from American names. Like if Biden had added equity or something like that to a federal agency or anything that was, overseen by the federal government. Mount McKinley is a great example of that. That was Mount Denali in Alaska, but he restored it to the original name of Mount McKinley.
Denali was the original name. Anyway, Brett's favorite EO, imagine having a favorite executive order, was the one making English the official language of the US, and she loves it when Trump says he can't understand people. She also loved how Trump handled Zelensky and
so by then, he started getting kind of riled up, and he started interrupting Trump consistently until Trump finally had enough and started to call him out for this, Putin derangement syndrome and a lack of interest in obvious peace and productivity and diplomacy.
I don't know. I think I would also hate someone who attacked my country, and if I was the leader of said country, I would probably speak on it often. My takeaway from that discussion was that Zelensky wanted assurances from Trump, but Brett's framing is very different, and she greatly admires how Vance has Trump's back, unlike Pence. And that's it. She waxes poetic about how great this all is and how she's having a great time. And I just wonder, how is any of this helping the average American? How is this lowering prices and making our lives better? Final thoughts. I wanted to comment on this because, well, it was a lot of undeserved adulation for Trump, though I really don't think we should be adulating any politician, but anyway. And I wanted to interject some reality into Brett's enthusiasms. On the bright side, there were people in the comments of her video pushing back, but, when she was talking about American greatness, looking at what is being considered American greatness, I have to wonder, is this what American greatness is? Being small-minded and cruel? well, I did not mean to get emotional, but anyway, that's it for this video. Please feel free to share your thoughts below, and I'll see you in the next one.